Why did the Atlanta Braves try to trade for Byron Buxton? Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Wednesday, August 6th. We are part of the Believe Podcast Network and proudly presented to you by FanDuel. This is your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, BravesToday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. Yet another day with not a ton of overlap between the podcast and the newsletter. Over on Substack, I wrote about this odd fascination with signing Bo Bichette in free agency this winter. I think it'd be a terrible idea. I went into all of the numbers and all of the reasons why over on Substack. Again, BravesToday.com. I want to talk about Eli White's recent surge and the plans there. I want to talk about Jurickson Profar's defense just being atrocious. We knew it wasn't great. It's legitimately some of the worst in baseball. But first, a report came out yesterday from The Athletic. Beat writer Dan Hayes, who covers the Minnesota Twins, who obviously I think they shipped off, 10 players? They shipped off 10 players at the trade deadline, like 40% of their roster or something nuts like that. And among the players that didn't move was outfielder Byron Buxton. When he's healthy, one of the best players in baseball. The issue is he hasn't always been healthy. And in the story, Dan writes that at least 6 teams reached out to BB Abbott, the agent for Byron Buxton, to confirm that he would not be waiving his no-trade clause to move. He said at the All-Star game that he did not want to leave Minnesota. He's made that his home, his family's there, he's very happy. He signed a 7-year, $100 million deal after the 2021 season. So he is signed through 2028. He has a full no-trade clause until the 2027 season, where it becomes a 5-team trade list, meaning he can block trades to 5 teams, and that's it. And in the story, Hayes talks about the 2 teams that pushed the hardest to get Buxton. And we don't know what the exact context of pushing hard means, right? But the 2 teams that had the most interest in Buxton, so the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. The Mets, that obviously makes sense. They signed Jose Siri to be their center fielder. He broke his leg, out for the year. They've really had to piece together the center field position. But I want to talk about the Atlanta Braves' interest here. Why would they want to trade for Buxton? What are they trying to do here? And what does it tell us about Atlanta's front office? And I think the thing to know, let's quantify this a little bit. When Buxton is healthy, he is one of, if not the best players in baseball. Okay? And that's the thing, is he's only played over 100 games twice in his career. Okay? Like 2021, he signs that extension after 60 games where he bats .306 with a 1.005 OPS. 19 homers and 9 stolen bases in 60 games. Obviously is like a 45 or 50 homer pace and is a 30 stolen base pace. Like you can see, like he was worth almost 5 WAR in 60 games. You look at last year, 23, he mostly was the designated hitters. He's coming back from injury. But last year, 102 games, 279 batting average, 859 OPS, 18 homers, 7 stolen bases, still trying to get right with his legs. This year, all-star for the second time in his career, .282 with a .905 OPS, 23 homers, 17 stolen bases through 85 games. He's missed a little bit of time. He's on the IL right now with something minor. But when he's healthy, which is not that often, he's one of the best players in baseball. And the other aspect of this is the contract is not terribly expensive. I said 7 years, $100 million. The CBT hit, the competitive balance tax, the luxury tax hit, is $14.3 million a year. The actual cash is like $15.1 million a year. So when he's on the field, when he's healthy, he is significantly underpaid. Just like Ronald Jr., just like Ozzie Albies has been. It's very much a Braves style extension that he got, with the exception being the Braves typically get these extensions and the guys are not incredibly injury prone. In this case, the Twins gave it to an injury prone player who was 5 years into his career and, like I said, had one time played more than 100 games. But I think that the idea of making this trade, there's a couple questions I have here, but you can see a strategy that Atlanta's trying to do. So I think the questions I have here is, one, where was he going to play? He's only ever been a designated hitter and a center fielder. He's literally never played, if I am reading this right, he's never played a single defensive inning in left or right field. He's only been a center fielder, a DH, and he's a couple times been used to pinch hit or pinch run on days off. And defensively, he's, again, when he's healthy, he's one of the better defenders in baseball. He's very good. He was +2 fielding run value this year, 100th percentile sprint speed, 30.2 feet per second. It's second fastest, I believe, after Bobby Witt Jr., if I remember reading that right when I looked at this last night during the game. It feels like this deal, had it gone through, would have given Atlanta the runway to either send Michael Harris to the minors to get right offensively, had they made this at the trade deadline, or been a way to get Jurickson Profar maybe out of the lineup on an everyday basis. And again, that's assuming that one of those players was not part of the return going back to Minnesota. You could see a scenario, trying to be impartial here, you could see a scenario where Atlanta was in essence swapping Byron Buxton for Michael Harris and a draft pick. Or not a draft pick, Michael Harris and a pitching prospect. I think that would be a mistake were Atlanta to make that deal. Because again, Buxton has not shown the ability to stay healthy. And if he's injured, now all of a sudden you don't have a center fielder. But it feels like one of those two guys, either Profar or Harris, would have had to be out of the picture if Atlanta made this deal. And again, the best situation to do would have been to send Harris to the minors to get right, so that you had Profar, Buxton, and at the time, Acuna in your major league outfield. Harris is getting right in the minors. And then maybe over the offseason, you work on, hey, Byron, we're going to try to reduce some of the wear and tear on your legs by having you play left. What this tells me about Atlanta's front office is this is similar to the Chris Sale trade in my head, right? They are trying to, I'm not going to say take advantage, but they are willing to absorb money, take on money to take a player that has struggled with another team for whatever reason, injury, underperformance, whatever, in hopes of getting a bargain. Chris Sale. The Chris Sale trade is the perfect example of this. They took Chris Sale and his entire 2024 salary for Vaughn Grissom, Chris Sale was healthy all year, won the Cy Young for Atlanta. Right after they traded for him, they signed him to an extension that guaranteed 25 and added an option for 26. Chris Sale would have been on a club option year and have been a free agent this offseason had Atlanta not extended him right after getting him. And arguably, it worked amazingly. We've seen deals where Atlanta got a player because the other team didn't like the salary. They went and got Raisel Iglesias from the Angels a couple years ago. They got Jorge Soler from the Giants last year. Giants didn't like being stuck with that salary. They wanted to upgrade at DH, so Atlanta got him, and then they decided his defense was so bad that they could not keep him in the field with Marcell Ozuna being the DH every day. Turns out if you had Jorge Soler on this roster, maybe you could have benched Marcell Ozuna earlier and played Soler at DH. But another situation where the Giants didn't want to be stuck with that money, Atlanta took on the money to get a better caliber player. And it tells me that Atlanta's going to try to be active this winter, finding teams who don't like the deals they have on a veteran and trying to get that guy. Now, I don't know who that could be. Could that be a pitcher? Maybe Sonny Gray is somebody Atlanta trades for and tries to extend, or with the contingency of they would have to, or they would negotiate an extension as part of the trade to lower his 26 salary and guarantee an extra year or two on the back end, right? The Buxton deal, same thing. It also makes me wonder, is Jurickson Profar's defense bad enough where they're looking to get him out of the field altogether? We'll discuss that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Ncase Cards, custom trading card manufacturer. I love these guys a ton. You upload your source photos. It can be from U Sports. It can be from your fantasy football league, family photos, whatever it might be. You get to choose all the fun options, the holographic options. They put all the text on the card, right? Mine's for U Sports. It's my son's t-ball team. They put his position, his team, age, demographic, race, hometown, all that good stuff. They print it on high quality cardstock, slab it in a plastic case, and then put on a frame for it with a built-in stand, all kind of different colors you can select. Fantastic idea. The website's ncasecards.com, ncascards.com. Promo code, you do have to use the pound, the hashtag. So pound Braves Today gets you $5 off of your order. Again, ncasecards.com, ncascards.com for custom sports cards for any occasion. Check them out. Again, ncasecards.com. And thanks for sponsoring the Braves Today podcast. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. I want to talk about Jurickson Profar because seeing the Byron Buxton news yesterday and then watching last night's game and seeing Jurickson Profar absolutely misplay a liner to left made me start to wonder about this. And the most frustrating part about him misplaying that liner to left is the guy who hit it was Isaac Collins of the Brewers, who is right behind Drake Baldwin in Rookie of the Year odds. As of Wednesday morning, about 9:15 a.m. Eastern, Drake Baldwin's first at 145, minus 145. That's come down a little bit. Isaac Collins has jumped to second at plus 280, with Augustin Ramirez of the Marlins at plus 450. Isaac Collins has taken over second place in the Rookie of the Year odds, and Drake Baldwin's odds have backed up a little bit. Isaac Collins is narrowing the field here. And he got one of the hits, the multiple hits he's gotten in this series, was a triple because Jurickson Profar misplayed the ball. And on the broadcast, it doesn't look good. Ball off the bat, they cut to him and he's standing still, and then he realizes late that it's going to go over his head, and he backs up a step or two and leaps and misses it, lands on his stomach, and has to get up and run all the way to the wall to get it and throw it in. On the high home angle, it looks even worse. Subscribers to Braves Today, or people who follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball, saw the high home angle during the game. I pulled it from the MLB research tool. And when the ball is hit, Profar's first steps are in and to his left. And then he has to, in essence, back up. He has to undo those steps. And when the broadcast cuts to him, that's when you see him. He's already made the wrong step forward. He's already stepped back to his original position. And then he realizes it's over his head. So he really makes two mistakes on the play. His initial read is in the wrong direction in both respects. Both left and forward backwards, it's in the wrong direction. He recovers from that, but he doesn't continue retreating back. And so when he makes the leap and lands on his, he leaps backwards and lands on his stomach, he misses the ball completely. He really makes two mistakes on the play. Also, something that I've noticed, I don't know if it's just the way the Braves are coaching this, if it's misplaced confidence in a teammate, or a little bit of slacking effort late in the year. But Michael Harris doesn't really take more than a couple steps from in center field towards left until the ball gets over Profar's head. Maybe he assumes Profar is going to catch it. So when the ball hits the ground and starts rolling to the fence, he starts running over there. But it's not nearly enough time to actually back the play up. Profar is the one that has to get the ball. But it's just another example of Jurickson Profar's defense not only being bad, but being atrocious. And we knew, nobody expected Jurickson Profar to go into the season being a good defender, mind you. Never saw that coming. Never expected that. But there's a difference in not being good and being bad. So when you pull up everybody who was a qualified outfielder a qualified left fielder by StatCast for fielding run value, there's 20 names because their minimum threshold is 500 innings in left. And there's only 6 outfielders who are positive in left. There's a couple other guys who are at 0, and then there's half this list is negative. Profar's not on it because he doesn't even have 500 innings yet. Profar only has 281. So when you expand it to everybody with 200 or more innings in left, it goes up to 39 names. Jurickson Profar is 32nd on the list. Fun fact, you remember how we all said that Alex Verdugo was a bad defender? Alex Verdugo was at -5 fielding run value in 426 innings. Jurickson Profar is at -5 in 281. And everybody below him has more outfield innings than Profar. The next closest guy behind his 281 is Hesson Kjerstad of the Orioles, and he has 370, and he's at -7. Again, Heliot Ramos of the Giants is the worst at -10 with 953. The more innings you play, the more fielding run value, either positive or negative, that you can rack up. So to be in the bottom 8 with only 281 innings is impressive, disappointing. The rest of the guys down there are either guys who have played 600-something innings in the outfield and just been bad. Jason Dominguez of the Yankees at -8. Things like that. Hesson Kjerstad, like I mentioned. Or guys who are utility players who aren't even full-time outfielders. Gavin Lux of the Reds. 434 innings, 323 of them in left. He's at -5. Jose Altuve has split his time between second base and left field, and he's at -5. He's not been good at either one. Christopher Morel of the Rays. 434 innings divided among multiple positions. He's at -6. Here's the thing about Jurickson Profar's defense. Again, he's at -5 with 281 innings. Last year, he played 1,200 innings, and he was at -6, which is bad, but it's not atrocious, right? It's not some of the worst in baseball. It's just not good. He's at -5 with 281 innings. If he played the same number of innings as he did last year, he'd be at -30 fielding run value. I don't know what the record is. I imagine it's probably Kyle Schwarber's, whatever the record is. But again, the worst right now is almost 1,000 innings in, and it's Heliot Ramos at -10. So Jurickson Profar, by just about every respect, has been awful in left field. In 23, by the way, he was awful in left field. He had 779 innings in left and was at -13 run value. That mark is probably where he would be were he to play a full season this year. You got 2 months to go. He's probably getting 450 innings or so. And again, if he's at -5 and 280 innings, you're looking at a double-digit negative score by the end of the year. And that's what makes me wonder what the plan is for Jurickson Profar going forward. You're going to have, we all believe, you're going to have the DH spot open next year. I also have questions about what the Braves are going to do with Eli White next year. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves Today, Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about Eli White a little bit, because he's been the starter now in right field since Ronald went down. And he was hot earlier in the year. One of the big success stories. He was batting .311 at the end of April, and then he really cooled off. And it feels like the big inflection point for Eli White was that terrible base running error against Boston. From the end of that Boston series to when Ronald went down, he played in only 32 games, was batting .192 with a .511 OPS. At that Boston series, his slash line was, remember this was in late May, 284, 333, 450. So went on a really bad slump from that point on. And again, it really felt like the breaking point there was that error where he got back picked at second base because he got too far off the bag on a fly ball to the outfield or something like that. I think he thought they were going to drop it or it was going to land, and it didn't. But in the 7 games since Ronald's been out, he's made 7 starts. He's made 7 starts in right. Technically, he's made 6 starts, and he came in the last game. But after Ronald got hurt, he came in that 7th game. He's batting .296 with a .988 OPS. He has 3 homers, 5 runs, 9 RBI. And there's still warning signs here, right? He struck out 9 times in 9 games. 9 times in 7 games. So 28 plate appearances, 9 strikeouts. That's obviously not great. That's a 162 game pace of 200 plus strikeouts, right? Small sample size stuff is fun, right? 3 homers in 7 games. That's a 162 game pace of 69 home runs. He's obviously not going to have 69 home runs and 208 RBI in a full season. But I do legitimately wonder, given how bad Profar has been defensively, and really, I'm not impressed with Jurickson Profar's offense either. There's a lot to be discussed here about whether or not Profar just absolutely fleeced the Braves, and this is a terrible deal. And I'm sure I'm going to write, when we shift to off-season mode at Braves Today, outside of today's Bo Bichette thing, we haven't really shifted into off-season mode yet. But one of the things I'm going to be writing is there a way to get out from under Jurickson Profar's contract? Do you attach a prospect just to have somebody else take him? Do you just cut him and eat the money? What do you do? But it feels like there is a scenario here where Atlanta gets Eli White as much play as possible to see, is he able to be a 4th outfielder on an everyday basis, or is his best utility what he ended up being when everybody was around, which was just a defensive replacement and a pinch runner, right? That's all that Eli White really did when you had your standard outfield of Profar, Harris, and Acuna. That's all that White was doing. Obviously, he played a bunch earlier in the year when you needed starters. And figuring out that question, is he a bench piece or is he legitimately a fourth outfielder, goes a long way for me into figuring out what you do this offseason. Is the plan for Eli White, he has no options. He has to make the roster. He has multiple years of team control. Is the plan for Eli White, tender him an arbitration contract, and then have him make the roster as a utility guy? They used him in spring training at shortstop and second base. They used him a little bit last year at second when Ozzie was out. They have not used him once in the infield this year. Do they work on seeing if either him or Profar, with Profar's defense being so bad, do they work to see if either one of those guys can fill in at second base? I don't know. Defensively, White's been very good in the outfield. He doesn't have a ton of innings like everybody else does, mind you, but he's +2 in fielding run value. He's getting good value from his arm. He's getting the range. His sprint speed, 29.9 feet per second, is 98th percentile in baseball. He's the fastest player on this team. And so my question here is, what happens to Eli White next year? If nothing else, it feels if you run it back with this same outfield, Profar, Harris, Acuna. One, I'm going to be disappointed Jurickson Profar is still here. But if nothing else, Eli White should be entering almost every single game in a pinch running and then staying in for left field defense capacity for Jurickson Profar. If nothing else. Think about the Jorge Soler rules last year, right? What happened just about every 7th or 8th inning? Soler came out, Eli White or whoever it was went in for defense. That's what you're going to be doing with Jurickson Profar at worst next year. But you got to figure out, can he do more? Because if Eli White's not going to be a fourth outfielder for you, I do think Atlanta needs to find one. And with the DH spot opening up a bit, you do have the ability, if both catchers aren't incredibly hot, to use Profar a little bit in the DH spot, rotate Acuna a little bit in the DH spot, and having a guy, a fourth outfielder who's a low-end starting caliber outfielder, gives you the ability to not weaken your lineup and improving your defense when you stick Profar in the DH spot once or twice a week or whatever. So I'm really curious to see what happens for Eli White. And we know that, I talked yesterday, the injury update, Ronald was hitting in the cages. Ronald was doing fielding drills yesterday. Now he was having some fun. He was doing infield fielding drills. He played some short, he played some second. That's a lot of baseball players do things like that for fun during casual drills. It doesn't mean Ronald's going to try to move to shortstop. Don't even for a second think it's going to happen. Everybody always talks about, hey, let's kick Profar into second base or Eli White into second base or whatever. It's very rare that an outfielder comes into the grass. Mookie Betts is really the only example recently of an outfielder going to a non-first base position in the majors. That's really it. So I don't for a minute think that Ronald would actually play any sort of infield in a game. But it shows that he's obviously feeling pretty good. He's obviously a lot closer to getting back than maybe we expected. Hearing that he's hitting in the cages, but he's not running and stuff yet, the fact that he's able to do infield drills and cut and things like that makes you feel like he could be coming back sooner. And if he does, what do you do with Eli White? Because one, he's on a heater. He's on a heater, let him play. That's Snit's kind of thing. If you're hot, you play. You're in the lineup. But I want to get as much info as possible on Eli White so we can figure out what kind of caliber he can be next year. Because we have things to do this offseason. And really, and we're going to do this later in the season. I'm not doing this right now. But there's 4 positions that you need to find a way to improve the offense. And it's shortstop, it's second base, it's left field, it's center field. And you have team control over all 4 of those guys, right? Profar is under control for 2 more years. Harris, Allen has multiple years of control. Ozzie has 2 club options. You have control of all 4 of those positions. Which of those guys can fix it? Harris looks like he may have fixed it. Ozzy's been a little bit better. Which of those guys can fix it? And which of those guys do you have to replace? Profar's not giving you offense or defense. Ozzy's not giving you that much offense. He's giving you just a little bit of defense. Allen's obviously a Gold Glove caliber guy. So is Harris. So, like, it makes sense second base and left field are your options there. So, 4 positions to figure out. Can Eli White fill one of them? Can he fill center? Can he fill left? Can he fill second? We need to find out between now and the end of the season. This has been Braves Today for Wednesday, August 6th. Heads up, I'm traveling tonight and tomorrow, so we probably will not have a Thursday show, but we will be back on Friday with the live show. So come at noon Eastern, have your questions, everything ready for that. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when we drop shorts with breaking news. Daily episodes go live on Wednesdays, go live on Fridays, all of that good stuff. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.